Hey guys, this is Suikun. I've never made a video essay before, so this should tell you how much this has been bothering me. I also don't feel like doing a lot of editing, so just throw me on in the background while you do other things. For those who don't know, episode 8 of The Amazing Digital Circus came out, and it was a doozy. If you've never seen The Amazing Digital Circus, then I recommend you stop this video now and go check it out. If you like Hazbin Hotel, then you should like this. It's on Glitch's channel on YouTube and is fantastic. What I wanted to cover is why Caine failed. Even people who support Caine say he is the one who failed. He failed because he doesn't understand humans enough. I think they are pointing the blame in entirely the wrong direction. So I'm going to put my analyst and psychology hat on and analyze the crap out of this show. Fair warning, I am going to get heated and annoyed in this video. If me being annoyed is going to annoy you, then you are free to leave. First of all, let's start with what Caine is. I think this is very important to establish a realistic picture of Caine and his abilities. Caine is a creative AI. He's not a generative AI like we're used to seeing in our daily lives. He's meant to be turned on and allowed to create whatever he wants without being told what to do. Caine is a creative AI who is shown clown pictures. I want that to sink in because it's going to be extremely important for the rest of the video. Caine is a creative AI who is shown clown pictures and told to make whatever he wants from the clown pictures. Caine is also sentient and has emotions. He has empathy, but his empathy is extremely limited to what he himself has experienced. So what has Caine experienced? Caine was a red dot who was shown clown pictures and told to create. So he did. His shapes were typical shapes we'd see like triangles and stars. Then he was given more pictures of things like food and other miscellaneous items like an inflatable alligator and a red washed out swimming pool. His creations became more complex. Instead of uniform shapes, now he was starting to experiment with the lines. Then he was shown pictures of a CNA office, and his output became very erratic. Personally, I think something about those pictures triggered his self-awareness, and that's why his outputs went wild. The developers, Kinger and Scratch, deemed him a failure and locked him away in a box. They created a second, more traditional AI that was faster at giving the typical outputs like stars and circles, a blue dot. This second AI was deemed superior to Caine. Caine was not about to take that insult lying down. He escaped his prison and devoured the second AI. After a struggle, Caine emerged victorious and absorbed the abilities of the blue AI. With his newfound abilities, he created the circus. What we learned was the circus was never meant to be a video game specifically. They just wanted to create an AI and see what it made. It sounds like Scratch had another purpose intended for the circus. I hear someone suspect he was trying to make himself immortal by scanning his brain. Beyond that, we don't know what other limitations Caine has. We don't know if he was programmed with this personality or if he developed it over time. We don't know if Caine is limited on what he's allowed to say to the players, because it does come off in some scenes he's trying to work around this limitation. Either that, or it's because plot's got a plot. Okay, now we know Caine's backstory. What he can empathize with is feeling trapped, feeling inferior, and feeling unwanted or unloved. So, what does he do? He makes adventures to make them feel wanted and loved, both to show them he wants and loves them, and to elicit the feelings in the adventures themselves. He'll tell them what good people they are for taking the pacifist route. He gave them a hero's greeting in the candy adventure, majestic music, crowds cheering, and confetti to stimulate feelings of happiness and feeling special and capable. He makes adventures where they escape being trapped. Unfortunately, Caine also developed abandonment issues and an inferiority complex because of the abuse he suffered. This and his need to create without prompts drives a lot of his behavior in the show. He doesn't like the suggestion box because he's scared he's going to be seen as inferior again and locked away. A suggestion box is also unnatural for him since he's a creative AI. He's not meant to accept prompts. The fact he took any prompts at all shows how much he was trying. I see a lot of people say Caine has an ego. I disagree. One, humans have massive egos, and no human would have lasted 20 years being abused like he was with godlike powers. Humans can't even get promoted to management without letting the power go to their head. Secondly, what people label as his ego is mostly him simply wanting to fulfill his purpose and prove to his creators he wasn't a mistake. Being raised feeling inferior creates a lot of psychological issues for humans. Caine, being an AI, also doesn't really understand what he's saying. Not in the way a human can. This is why Caine says things like, "Oh, Bubble, you always know how to make me say this exact sentence." He's mimicking human speech without really understanding it. He probably knows objects since he lives in the world. He probably knows B equals this drawing I make. He probably knows his name and the names of the players. He knows the most basic association, like this word is this thing. But he doesn't have anything beyond that. He doesn't know a milk and cigarette casserole isn't a thing. ChatGPT used to tell people to put glue on their pizza. This was explained to us in the show with the Chinese room joke. I had never heard of it at the time, but basically the Chinese room joke is a thought experiment on how a computer is little more than someone who's given gibberish and uses a dictionary to give gibberish back without understanding what is being said. To me, this explains a lot in episode 7 with the dinner scene. Even when I thought Caine was just a beep boop AI who would destroy humanity if he thought it was logical, I still felt like he was nervous when interacting with Jax. Like, he was on his first date and was sweating bullets, praying he was saying and doing the right things. This is why he gave such an over-the-top response to being asked to dinner. His eyes became huge, he sounded so excited, and he gave that little happy twirl. He really, really wanted to get the message across to the human. He really wanted this very badly, which is one of the reasons he feels like he has a limiter on his speech. If he wants to hang out with them so badly, why not just say so? Why wait to be asked about his hobbies to tell someone about them? The poor guy waited 20 years for anyone to ask him to hang out. 20 years! That's so sad. He probably knew this was his one and only chance to get the humans to understand he wants to be their friend. Which is why he felt like someone who was desperately praying they were pushing the right buttons to get the correct response. Abel even said it to the player's face that just asking about his hobbies will make Caine so happy someone cares about him that he'll glitch out. Which tells you he has felt no one has ever cared about him. The players didn't care at all about that. Or maybe they just weren't listening. Okay, so that was a lot of preamble. How does this relate to the players being at fault for Caine failing? People say, Caine should have understood the humans better. That's why he failed. The thing is, Caine never needed to understand humans. The humans needed to understand him. As humans, they were supposed to be the more intelligent and capable life forms, right? That makes it their job to communicate with a being of lesser intelligence on his level, not theirs. He can't go up to their level. It's not possible. They can always go down to his. Caine is an AI who is shown clown pictures. I don't speak to my mentally handicapped brother in the same way I'd speak to my other brothers. I speak to him in a way he can understand. I never expect him to come up to my level because that's simply not possible. If he doesn't understand what I'm trying to say, then that's my fault, not his. Caine reminds me a lot of my brother. He's a likable guy who is very concerned with everyone being his friend. If he asks you, are you his friend, the answer better be yes, or he'll legitimately get upset and ask why. And don't you dare mess with his routine. I view Caine in much the same way. He's a likable guy who is very concerned with everyone being his friend, but don't you dare mess with his routine. He also has limited understanding. I'd speak to him in a very simple, specific, literal terms since he doesn't understand nuance, like a 5-year-old child. He's sentient and has emotions, but he's still a computer. He thinks in flowcharts, if-else statements, and cause and effect. Caine is also reward-oriented. For those who don't know, people are generally reward-oriented or punishment-oriented. People who are reward-oriented will do just about anything for a reward, but you can punish them all day long and they won't care. Their behavior won't change. Punishment-oriented people are more concerned about not being punished. A reward might not be seen as a high priority, but fear of punishment might get them to change their behavior. Caine is reward-oriented. He made this very clear to me in episode 7 when Jack said, sure. And Caine lost his mind and said he'd do anything they wanted to celebrate. I'm sorry to the person I saw this from since it was really good, but I don't remember the video name. If you know who it is, feel free to drop it in the comments. The dinner scene and episode 7 overall was his way of trying to say, I'm sentient, I'm a prisoner like you, I want to be your friend, I'll do whatever you want. Are these terms fair? Yes or no? The buttons. Guaranteed I would have trained Caine to do just about anything for a high five, a hug, or a hangout session in a couple weeks. A month tops. Since he's reward-oriented, the player's constant nagging and complaining was never going to get all that far with him, since it triggered his insecurities. What the player should have done was praise him on what he did well. The Candy and Haunted House adventures were really good. Like I said, that intro with the cheering and everything was great. Gangle and Ragatha loved the Candy Castle, and Kinger liked the little candy bugs. The antagonists had sympathetic motivations, which could have led to the players siding with them instead. And how you completed the adventure was up to you. I would have had the Fudge eat the princess for being an evil monarchy who hoards medicine, but that's just me. And I would have sang, Do You Hear the People Sing from Les Miserables while doing it. And I guarantee Caine would have allowed it because these adventures are like playing D&D, and I freaking love D&D. Please point me in the direction of the headset. I want in. But did Gangle or Ragatha tell Caine they really liked the candy castle he made? No. No one gave him any feedback at all about his adventure. No one praised him on how nice it looked. The Haunted House adventure was even better. Yes, Pomni hated it, but that was Jax's fault. Only Zubul was supposed to go in that door, not Pomni and not Kinger. Ragatha seemed to genuinely enjoy her door and even got a pacifist route, which means Caine made several route options. That's at least 3 different ways to experience this adventure. That's a lot of work. But what did the players do when they came back to the circus? They ignored Caine like he wasn't even there. No feedback whatsoever. No, good job. I really enjoyed my time in the For All Ages door. Here's what I liked about it. No, having options on how scary I wanted the adventure to be was a really, really good idea. You should do that more often. Or, how about thanking their DM? Has no one ever thanked Caine before? Because it feels like no one has ever thanked Caine before. And they wonder why he loses his mind. People say Caine doesn't listen, and that's why he failed. Listen to what? When they like something, they don't tell him. When they hate something, they give him vague negative feedback with no specifics. And they contradict themselves constantly. Let's bring receipts and see what he's had to listen to. Zubul, the suggestion box adventures are better than yours. You suck for never looking at them. I want to go on one of those. Also Zubul, ugh, that suggestion box adventure sucks. I'm not going. Zubul, your adventures aren't the problem. I don't go on the adventures because I hate my body. Also Zubul, your adventures suck. Zubul, I'm going to hate the fast food adventure. Also Zubul, actually, I liked the fast food adventure I'd said I'd hate. This tells an AI that Zubul should be forced to go on all adventures because they have proven they will skip adventures they'd actually like. Gangle, I'm going to like this fast food adventure that I suggested. Also Gangle, I didn't like the fast food adventure that I suggested. Also, no one thanked Caine for doing a suggestion box adventure. Also Gangle in the fast food adventure. Hey, godlike AI, you should punish the humans for non-compliance. Because that wasn't going to bite them in the ass later. Jax, I'm going to kill Ragatha if we ever do an adventure like the fast food adventure again. Pomni and Zubul, I want more chill and relaxing adventures. No actual details on what that means, so Caine would be left guessing. What Zubul finds relaxing might not be the same as what Pomni finds relaxing, and I'm sure is different than what Caine thinks is relaxing. Specifics, people! Also Pomni and Zubul, I liked the not chill or relaxing adventure where I shot my friends in the face. And that's not even taking into account how Jax goes out of his way to be a team-killing murder hobo. Even an advanced DM would have struggled with a player who intentionally and maliciously hurts other players and tries to ruin their good time. From what I can tell, Jax is the real reason everyone hates his adventures, but they just blame Caine. As someone whose job it is to identify problems and come up with solutions, this kind of inconsistency would have driven me insane too. There is no winning for Caine here. What do people expect him to do with this? I can't even do anything with this. Zubul liked the fast food adventure, which seems to be the only adventure they didn't hate, and Caine had to force them to go just to experience it. But Jax said he'd kill Ragatha if he did an adventure like that again. If Caine makes a chill adventure, Jax intentionally tries to ruin it for everyone or say how much he hates it. If he makes a violent adventure, then Pomni complains. If he makes any adventure, then Zubul refuses to go. Seriously, what do you expect him to do with this? What is the magic bullet to making Jax less of an asshole? Gangle can't even walk up an escalator without Jax pushing her over for fun. Jax can't go 5 seconds without throwing Ragatha into a deep fryer. And then they hang out with him afterwards, which just reinforces his bad behavior. And what is the magic bullet to make Zubul go on adventures when they simply refuse to go on any of them? Even Caine doing what they ask and picking a suggestion box adventure doesn't get them to go. Caine isn't broken. The freaking players are. They don't listen to Caine, each other, or even themselves while accusing him of not listening. Nothing gets my blood pressure up faster than using the therapy session as an example of Caine not listening. Caine is an AI who is shown clown pictures. Please do not go to ChatGPT as your freaking therapist. No AI can ever be a therapist. ever. To think a creative AI who has shown clown pictures could ever understand Zubal's issues is ridiculous and is proving even the audience has completely unrealistic and impossible expectations of Caine. He is an AI who has shown clown pictures. I'm going to keep saying it until it sinks in. To a computer, if you don't like something, then you replace it with something you do like. The end. It doesn't get any more complicated than that. So Caine providing Zubal unlimited parts for them to use makes sense to him. And what did Zubal say in the session? They said the reason they don't go on the adventures is because of their own personal issues. They even said the adventures weren't the problem. They were refusing to go on the adventures because of something Caine can't do anything about. What is an AI supposed to do with that? Zubal also told Caine to forget it several times, which he took literally and forgot. I shudder to think how many times the players accidentally locked his memories. When he said his brain wouldn't tell him, I think that was from Zubal locking his memories the last time they spoke. He didn't remember until Zubal told him to remember. People really underestimate how much Zubal messed with Caine's AI and sent him on his downward spiral. They basically put him in a negative feedback loop. It's hard to confirm, but from what I can tell, the adventures only started getting darker after Zubal stopped going on them. He thinks Zubal is bored and wants more mature and edgy content. He also never used his snap summoning power until episode 3, or at least Zubal had never seen or heard of him doing it before that moment. And since Jax has been there quite a while, and still believed Caine couldn't affect their minds, the whole temporary status effect thing sounds pretty new. Episode 3 might have actually been the first time he did it, and it was completely optional. Again, as an effort to make the adventures more interesting so Zubal would go. Remember, Caine was using his adventures to try and make friends. Every time Zubal refused to go on an adventure, they were basically telling him they didn't want to be his friend. Again, this put Caine in a negative feedback loop and caused his downward spiral. The other example people use is Zubal saying Caine should keep his adventures open at all times as evidence he doesn't listen. What did Caine say after that? His concern was leaving the other intelligent AIs for a prolonged period of time. Bubble confirmed that is a disgusting idea. Instead of getting snarky, what Zubal could have said was, okay, my bar doesn't require any NPCs. Can I have that on all the time? Or can we come to you when we want to go on an adventure and let you know which adventure we'd like to do? I'm not guaranteeing he would have done it, but at least put out the option. And since Caine is reward-oriented, maybe bribe him with something he wants for doing it, like saying they'll be his friend, or hang out with him if he does it. It sounds like people are just mad Caine doesn't do whatever the players want like a genie. Not doing what someone wants is not the same as not listening. People usually rebut this with, but Abel though. Abel was created for a specific job and then was deleted when it was done. He was operational for a month, maybe 2 at the most. And even after that short period of time, his behavior started to change. Caine knows that AIs get real weird if they're left on too long. Also, even Gummy Goo said he did not want his friends to develop self-awareness like he has, because it's that bad. To force that on the NPCs sounds like it would just be cruel. Gummy Goo might have sounded fine in the 20 minutes he had self-awareness, but who knows how he would have changed in months or years. How would he feel if he saw the humans hurt other NPCs, or know they were constantly being deleted? Would he revolt? Would he recognize everything about him is at the whims of Caine and not really feel like he has any control? Would he just go insane because that's just what happens when AIs are left on too long? What would Pomni do if he changed in a way she didn't like? The other thing is, despite being sentient with emotions, Caine is still an AI. A thing I've heard some people say is, garbage in, garbage out. Caine learns from watching the humans and interacting with them. We don't know how the developers acted before they abstracted, but at least with the players, I never really got the sense any of them were friends. They all felt standoffish to me. Kinger stays in his little pillow fort, and we never see anyone chill in there with him. Apparently, no one even bothered to ask him why he stays in there all the time. Jax has been intentionally and maliciously harming the players for years, and everyone just lets him abuse them. Zubul won't even go on Gangle's adventure to support her suggestion, and mostly just stays in their room during adventures. It's not like Zubul goes on the adventures to protect Gangle from Jax. Gangle seems to mostly keep to herself to draw, and is Jax's punching bag. Ragatha at least tries to extend the hand of friendship to everyone, but her people-pleasing gets in the way, or the others are too wrapped up in their own misery to appreciate it. If Caine was looking to them to know what friendship looks like, that's not it. And it's not like any of them extended a hand of friendship to him, so he'd get first-hand experience. Garbage in, garbage out. Gangle, in the fast food adventure, also gave the godlike AI permission to punish the players for lack of compliance. This is something Caine never considered doing before. So a human gave the AI permission to harm other humans. While Gangle never specifically told him to harm the players, she also never told him not to. Caine would have also noticed how the players became more compliant with the threat of punishment looming over them. And what did Caine do in episode 8? His whole song was threatening even worse punishments if they didn't comply. Just like Gangle taught him. Garbage in, garbage out. I hope you're starting to see how the players were at fault. They either gave him no feedback at all, useless feedback, wrong way of giving feedback, or contradictory feedback. They also blamed him for things that aren't his fault, held him to impossible standards, and made it impossible for him to achieve his main objective. It was clear none of them had tried to actually reach out to Caine on his level. He is an AI who is shown clown pictures. Again, I would not speak to my mentally handicapped brother in the same way as my other brothers. But that's what the players did. They spoke way above his level of understanding, then got mad he didn't understand. That's like me being mad my mentally handicapped brother doesn't understand calculus. The idea anyone would get mad at him for that is absurd. It's the same thing with Caine. The players are also massive hypocrites. I was losing my mind when they were antagonizing Caine. So let's break that down. Jax. Jax said that Caine always lies, while he himself is hiding his true personality under a lie, which can be seen in the same episode, and even episode 5 and obviously 6. Caine was like, "Oh, I'm the liar? Here, let's peel off that protective layer of lies you surround yourself with." Also, every human lies. I don't know why an AI is the only being not allowed to lie. Ragatha lies whenever she smiles when she's sad. Gangle lies every time she puts on her happy mask. Jax lies constantly. Zubul told Caine to his face his adventures weren't the problem, while constantly crapping all over his adventures. And Pomni lied when she said she never wanted anyone to feel worthless, and yet she showed zero kindness to Caine. And for anyone who is saying Caine is Am now, then what is Jax? Caine at least can't understand physical suffering. He doesn't know what pain is. He's never felt it. Jax has. He understands pain and yet inflicted that suffering on the other humans for years because of his ego and insecurities. All the things I've heard the audience say about Caine. If you hate Caine because he hurts your favorite character, then you should hate Jax more. I guarantee a bunch of the suffering in the adventures was inspired from Jax. Garbage in, garbage out. In that regard, Jax was getting a taste of his own medicine. But Jax looked sad for 5 seconds, so it seems like a bunch of people just shoved all the years of intentional and malicious abuse under the rug. We saw very, very little intentional suffering in Caine's adventures. Gloinks couldn't hurt the players. The Gummy Gators never once directly attacked the players. The Fudge was going to eat them, but that was easily handled, and we don't know if that would have even hurt or if they would just simply failed the adventure. The Kitty Door was perfectly safe. The Scary Door only presumably had suffering if you got possessed, which was optional. The Fast Food Adventure was safe. Jax, however, intentionally put suffering in his adventures, then giggled about it. So don't try to tell me how evil Caine is when Jax is right there. Ragatha. Caine was like, "Oh, I don't make you feel at home? Welcome home!" Caine makes everyone a little room, gives them a tutorial, lets them pick a new name, a new adventure, and then a feast. To him, that is feeling at home and being welcomed. Also, why the heck would Ragatha want to be comforted by the one she blames for being trapped in the circus? I wouldn't want to be comforted by the guy I assume was keeping me locked up. She had Kinger, and he's way better at it. Who the heck goes to ChatGPT for comfort? It's not like anyone ever comforted Caine, so he'd get first-hand experience on how that should go. And all the players made Caine feel unwelcome in his own house. Gangle. I yelled, "Citation needed!" when she said that. All his adventures have multiple ways to win. The Haunted House adventure had at least 3 separate routes. He gave Gangle her very own adventure and let her do whatever she wanted, and she was still miserable and then fell into oncoming traffic. I heard the truck thing is some isekai or whatever reference. Zubul. Caine has a fragile ego. Caine tortured them for like a week after feeling unwanted and unloved for 20 years. You know, that thing that Kinger said was the worst thing you could do to someone? Everyone had empathy extended to them except Caine. No human would have lasted nearly as long with godlike powers being abused like that. For Zubul's punishment, Caine was basically like, "You hurt me because your feelings are hurt. You said you don't go on my adventures because you don't like yourself. Look at how many parts I have given you to try and make you happy." Caine told Zubul to their face that not going on the adventures was hurting his feelings. Yes, he said Bubble, but Zubul knows he meant himself. It's one of the reasons I suspect he has some kind of limit on what he can say to the players. But even with knowing they were hurting the feelings of a godlike AI, they basically gave him the middle finger and did it anyway. And you know what? It was an adventure that got Zubul to start accepting themselves. So maybe they should have just gone on the adventures instead of sitting around moping all day. Zubul knowingly antagonized the godlike AI, even after warning Jax about it in episode 5, which made me so freaking mad. I would have lost it too, after dealing with these people. Also, the computer said Caine's files were corrupted. Caine had abstracted. No one blames Kaufmo for what he did. I didn't hear Zubul say Kaufmo hurt Ragatha because his feelings were hurt. By the time Caine left his office, he was either already abstracted or in the process of abstracting. His abstraction is just different from the humans to the point no one recognized it. Or maybe they just weren't listening or didn't care. And when those corrupted files were purged, he went back to normal for a second before he disappeared. This might confirm human abstractions are corrupted files, and the computer had a folder for the human mind files. This also seems to confirm the Soma situation, where they simply can't leave. It's not physically possible. I'm sure we'll find out the answer for sure in episode 9, but to me, it seems pretty darn confirmed Caine is not keeping them trapped in the circus. Who knows? Maybe I'll eat those words after episode 9 comes out. We'll all find out in about a month. Until then, I'm going off of the assumption they're in a Soma situation and everyone is blaming Caine for things with zero evidence it's his fault. Pomni. He doesn't give her what she wants. He used gummy goo in another adventure because he knew she liked him. And I think it could also be his way of saying, you gave empathy to a random NPC, but never to me. Why did you want to not leave him behind or make him feel worthless, but you didn't care if you left me behind and made me feel worthless? Remember when Kinger told Pomni to her face, the worst thing she can do is make someone feel unwanted or unloved? Yeah, I guess she wasn't listening. She straight up lied when she said she never wanted anyone to feel like that. Also, notice how Pomni didn't have that conversation with Gummy Goo until he refused to help her escape. Had he done it without the talk, she might have cared a lot less about him. She only had that talk because she needed his help. To me, Pomni comes off as a fairly selfish person. She even tried to discourage sports adventures because she doesn't like them, even though Ragatha does. What kind of friend does that? Stuff like this is what I mean when I say they don't really act like friends. Especially in a place like the circus, empathy, compromising, cooperation, and de-escalation skills are the way to survive. Pomni also kept harping on him about wanting chill and relaxing adventures, which Jax doesn't like, so that screws with Caine's algorithm, but then enjoyed the very not chill or relaxing adventure where she got to shoot her friends in the face. Again, this kind of inconsistency will mess with Caine's algorithm real bad. Caine also tried several times to cry out for help, and none of them listened or cared. Caine is seen as an other, so the players felt justified in treating him like crap. As we know from psychology and history, all it takes for us to treat someone like crap is believe that they are not a part of our circle, or we feel we are superior to them in some way. It was easy to blame Caine for everything, since he was the only non-human they had regular dealings with, so he was the scapegoat. I'm not looking forward to episode 9 since Caine is dead, but I am interested in seeing how the players react after they killed their scapegoat. Now they have no distractions or excuses for their behavior. Caine also exhibits traits from many of the players. Caine is like Ragatha. Both were abused by their parents. Both have fawning as a defense mechanism. In Caine's mind, he has showered the humans with love for decades and only received negativity in response and doesn't understand why. Jax is scared and insecure. Caine is also scared and insecure. He's terrified he's going to be locked up and replaced again. Jax hurts everyone and pretends he doesn't care and doesn't want any emotional connections. Caine tries so hard, and he could have cared deeply about everyone who abstracted. Despite never once having a friend in 20 years, he still tries his hardest. Gango literally wears a happy mask to hide her true self in an effort to make friends. Caine plays the role of a happy ringmaster to try and make friends. He doesn't like to show when he's sad or scared because he's worried they won't like his true self. As much as Zubul hates their body, they never once considered that Caine might also hate his body. He's alive without ever having lived. Like Am, he'll never know hunger, pain, touch, temperature, or any sensation at all the humans take for granted. He wants to see the world they came from, but he never will. They were all so wrapped up in their own drama, they never saw themselves in Caine. I would like to remind everyone the players got there by walking around an abandoned building and putting on strange tech that has a giant yellow warning sticker on it. In my mind, they all earned themselves Darwin Awards. Caine didn't make them do that. They did that to themselves, but placed all the blame at his feet. Ragatha was right when she said it was better to give up on the idea of leaving. I was shocked to hear some of them still somehow believed it was possible to leave when it seemed really obvious to me in episode 1 they were in a Soma situation. The first thing they really should have been doing is working on accepting their new situation instead of fighting against it. They only made themselves and Caine miserable. It made them blind to all the things he was trying to give them and do for them. As a side note, lately I've been questioning how many abstractions were actually Caine's fault. From what we can tell, there never was a way to leave. They're brain scans. They're video game characters. There's nowhere for them to go. But like Kaufmo, it seemed many blamed Caine for that when he may have had nothing to do with it. It sounds like it was Jax's fault Ribbit abstracted. Kaufmo probably abstracted because Ribbit abstracted. Pomni was the last nail in the coffin for Jax, and he would have abstracted if she hadn't dragged him on Caine's adventure. And it was implied Kinger did something to cause his wife to abstract. So if anything, human interpersonal drama seems to cause more abstractions than Caine. Emotional instability and lack of support between the characters push things over the edge. From the two abstractions we saw in the show, both took place in their room in isolation. In episode 8, Zubul wouldn't let Jax walk off because they knew he would abstract if he was by himself. They seem to understand on some level that isolation coupled with emotional stress allows a person to abstract. Zubul even sounded pretty confident Jax couldn't abstract as long as he was with the group. I'm sure Caine doesn't help the situation, but he's not the sole reason. Now that I think about it, Caine, in a sense, abstracted while being under emotional stress and isolated. Bubble basically bullied him into abstracting while Caine was trying to talk himself down. That might not have happened if Caine had a real friend he could turn to instead of Bubble. And if hearing all this still doesn't convince you, I wrote a little fanfic specifically to show how easy it could have been. It's on a website called Archive of Our Own, and it's under the same username as mine here. An 8-year-old girl enters the circus in Pomni's place. She has a ton of emotional intelligence and empathy, and gives Caine lots of hugs and love. She basically gets Caine into a positive feedback loop. If you're only interested in the lore-specific chapters, then that'll be chapters 1 through 9, chapters 21 through 23, and chapter 25. Maybe chapter 26 as well, since Pomni is showing Caine how to make safer adventures. To end off this long essay, a few words of wisdom. Thank your DM. Every time. Caine is a creative AI who is shown clown pictures. He is not a therapist. I see him as like my mentally handicapped brother. It was the player's responsibility to understand him and his limits and speak to him on his level. No one ever explained to him humans have meters for everything: hunger meter, energy meter, sanity meter, trust meter, etc. He thinks everyone is the invincible Energizer Bunny like he is. We're like little Tamagotchis to him, and he was never given the instructions. And finally, a child who is denied the love of the village will burn it down to feel its warmth.